So we'll look at copper and just I want to show you how to use this tool. It's a I used to pay for something like this. I think in the old days it was I think it was 300 300 a month, 200 a month. And then nowadays you can buy this from various sources for about I think $30 is reasonable. I think you can get this from a couple other sources, probably for about 30 bucks a month. Well, it's built in QuantBox, but anyway, so copper over right over the last 5 years has a good first quarter. Okay, I should do it in color. Okay, that's 5 years, and then in green you look at over the last 20 years. Okay, so over the last few years you've had a steeper up in the first quarter. In the last 20 years, it's just a less steep, flatter, however you want to describe it. And then this year, what actually happened? It came down and then it went up. Do you feel satisfied? Did QuantBox do its job? I would say so. And we don't know the future, but we know the past. And what does the past tell us? What's the most likely path for copper? Uh, uh, uh. So if you were making a boatload of money, typically you would want to take some profit now, right? And let it fade, or you could sell if you want. Now, the difference between this year and other years, there's a few. There's the election, but in the back of my mind is really inflation rising. So in 20 years, how much inflation do we typically have in the United States? Boris says the plot shows the change, though, right? Um, I might have missed your question, Boris. Let's see. Uh, so it's going to go up. So I think we were looking at something else, right? But hang on. I don't know if I can follow that. Hang on. Let me follow through on this, and then I'll try to address that. Okay. Maybe try asking it again while I talk. Ask it in a different way, so I can click. All right. So we have more than right. Inflation is usually zero-ish. We haven't had an inflation problem for a generation. Okay. Oddly enough, the last time we had inflation is when we had a central banker that wasn't an economist. The head of the Federal Reserve Bank and the Board of Governors, his name was Burns. He worked for Jimmy Carter. And Burns was not an economist. And we had high inflation that was persistent and stubborn, and no matter what the Fed did, it wouldn't stay down. And now we have that problem again. And oddly enough, Powell is not an economist. Quite an interesting coincidence, right? All right. So, anyways, let's look at this. So suddenly, so 0% ish, and now we have inflation, right? And typically, if you were going to be in an economy like stagflation, let's say, I'm not saying we're there, but let's just say you were. The economy wasn't collapsing, but we had high prices. You don't want to own the stock market. You don't want to own financial assets. You don't want to earn bonds that pay you the old inflation level while inflation's higher, right? So if you own a 10-year T note paying you 4.5, but in annual inflation was 7, you're losing, right? So what's the value of that bond going to be? That treasury is going to be, down 30-40%. So in that typically what you want to buy is physical things. Food, copper, gold, real estate, that kind of stuff. Tangibles, not financials, right? Financial assets. You're like, well, I own a piece of paper that says this company is going to pay me. That's a financial asset. No, people want like, right? So anyways, that's interesting. So this year you could get something like this, something different than normal. So that's how you need to read through it. Like again, this doesn't predict the future at all. In fact, this has never actually happened. Think about that. Why has this never actually happened? These are averages. Okay. So let's say like this dot, let's say 50% of the time it went up and 50% of the time went down, then that's the dot. But it was never, if half the time it rose in that month and half the time it fell in that month and there was never any in between, then that dot never actually happened, not even once. You get it? Like it's some abstract concept that humans made, right? The deer that walk through my yard, they're not calculating averages. They're hungry. They're hungry on average, right? So, anyways, yeah. So, anyways, so you got to be careful. But okay, let's see if I can get this. Okay, on the vertical axis, you have the percentage. Yes, percentage change. Yes, in price relative to the price in the beginning of the year or relative to price in previous. It would be the normal. Yeah, it would be month over month. So maybe this helps you. Yeah, it would be, well, you know what? This is probably annualized. I say I don't look at it like how much it's going to move. So I guess I just kind of answered it, Boris. I don't look at it as this is going to change 6% month over month. No, this would be 6% from zero. But I don't look at it like, okay, so at this point, we have so much change that we've fulfilled that 6%. So now we want, no, no, I don't look at it that way. You could. I look at this as the shape. Okay. Now there's two things. This is the month, right? This is the uh change. Here's the week over the week. Right. This is, so I don't believe, I'd have to really think about this. Is this 6% greater than the 4%? Well, it did start. Yeah. Why are you saying that? Well, this one does start at 0. Um, Another way to look at it, this is what I've done here is try to address. So let me think through this. So I'm looking at sort of the shape and the month over month. So this starts at 0 and this it was already up. Okay. And then so you have to realize too, this is a continuation of this. So you almost want to shift this over in your mind, right? So if you started buying copper in September, October, is you start your accumulation phase. Okay, it goes up in November, December, January to February, and right now you'd probably be taking profit. Your year as an investor is over. Wouldn't this be great though? Right? Soon as you're opening your swimming pool for the year, you're like, I'm done working. Right? I stopped trading copper when I opened my swimming pool. Um, so which in my part of the world is actually probably the third week of May. But so you're looking at this. This is even earlier than that, right? You're like, oh, I never work past Easter. This is the accumulation building up positions week over week. So maybe this helps, Boris, in what you're trying to get to. Uh, okay, we had a buyer, and then a seller, and then so right, so all the bulls, and then all the bears, and all the bulls, and all the bears, and right, and then it was really it's quite bearish in the beginning, and then it accumulates up, continues accumulating up, and then right drops by week 24. That's kind of the peak of the year. Week 25 to week 42. 25 to 42. The market is not accumulating positions. And then they accumulate positions here. So the way I look at it is really by week 38 or 39, I should be buying these from these selling. This is selling. This is more bears. It's the accumulation of negativity, right? So there's more and more and more bears selling. So I want to come in probably here 38, 39, 40, 41, being prepared to be an accumulator. And then this is okay. This is other people getting on the clue train, and this is me getting paid. But then that's total, right? Total. And then we start again at zero because it's the accumulation, right? So that's where like you can see here the accumulation continues. Okay. Okay. I put here too in the seasonality of this. This is just 1 week, week after week on its own. And again, this is average, which never happens. So it just kind of gives you um, a visual clue to reasonable normality. Okay. And then I put two standard deviations here to show you in your kind of like phase of lining up whether you should be a buyer or seller. Let's say in the first quarter, you're fundamentally a buyer of copper because of this. Okay. This this analysis can show you that right you can buy a drop in January. It's okay. And it actually happened. And part of the analysis is not just the red or sorry, right, this kind of stuff. Um, it's coming down, but it's the fact that week 5 is 2 standard deviations below what normally happens to copper throughout the year. And that would be a buy. That's why it's green. Okay. So you're like, huh. And then look at on the high side, 2 standard deviations above. That could be a sell. At least you could look to sell. Oh, wait. You see? Like if you were already looking to sell because of this, and then the chart rolled over on your chart. This is just seasonality. So if you had a chart and you're trading copper and you're like, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to look to sell because traditionally seasonality, this gets overbought by 2 standard deviations. And then you can plot this out and say, and it could last for 6 months. So that might be a market capitulation point, the peak. And you're ready, willing, and able before it happens. Okay? And then what? Week 25 is interesting, way below 2 standard deviations. Okay. Now look at this. You're like, well, it continues down, right? Yeah. But I also think in my mind as a trader, this is usually when I cut my trading volume by 50% or more. And, well, being a Canadian white male, I have a body of a hot water heater. Um, so that's a great time to go out and get some sun, right? Get some sun on my skin, get a tan, and spend a lot less time trading. So this could be a drop. Does it mean buy? Maybe it's dropping because everybody's taking profit. And then you come back to the market, and maybe it's just doing nothing in this period. And then when should you come back into the market as a owner? You want to own this maybe, right? Well, again, we already identified this week 38, 39 is somewhere in here. You can spend the next month slowly accumulating using technical analysis. And then you're like, man, not only am I going to buy copper when I get reversal patterns pointing up off of support, AKA, not only am I going to buy higher lows in copper, well, I can keep this accumulation phase going. Okay. As far as March, April. Okay. Now, Boris says, does that reflect some kind of manufacturing cycle? Probably. Okay. Probably. It could be mining cycle. It could be a distribution cycle. Um, it could be orders coming in for copper. Like let's just isolate this as North America. Okay. Because this is US futures, right? So let's say this is the time of year you build skyscrapers and houses. So when do you want supply of copper to be at its maximum? When do you want supply of copper pipes and copper wires and copper anything? When do you want the supply to be at its peak? So people that make brass fittings stop making brass fittings there. Their warehouses are full. And then they go into the sell phase. Sell. Not selling, literally selling copper pipes, copper wire, copper fittings to people. And then, right, the building season ends in the fall and you got to rebuild all your inventories. So supply of copper stuff is high, and then copper stuff is low here. And we build the cycle. Are you guys glad that I added copper? Yeah. Well, prices are going to go up 50% because I added copper and Russell. No, no, no. It's just there. Compliments of the firm, everybody. Dr. Copper. You're like, well, I don't know if I trade copper. Well, if you live in the United States and are going to trade at a prop firm, chances are you're going to be trading futures instead of cash. And there all of a sudden, you're like, well, what if your prop firm suddenly has copper futures? And you're like, oh, I have some inside information. Well, it's not inside information, but what percentage of retail Forex traders have this level of data regarding the copper market? Zippity doo dah. Yeah. So you have an unfair advantage. Cool, right? Yeah. All right. Well, that was a long one. I got to go. I got to go do Forex start today. But there you go. I didn't expect we were going to talk about copper this morning, but I hit you hard with copper. Yeah. So, well, I apologize for that. Yeah. Is it copper and then you add tin to it? Does that become brass? Or no, that's bronze, isn't it? Bronze. Copper plus tin equals bronze. Yeah. Anyways, I'll see you when I see you. Peace on earth. May the pips be with you. May your profits be above average. Mayor profits. I we should name a town profits. I'm the mayor of profits, right? Yeah. Anyways, mayor profits be above average.